Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of my colleagues here, we welcome you to Crane Clean Energy Center. My name is Dave Marcheski. I'm the Community Relations Manager here at Constellation. It's truly a privilege to have you with such an exciting day here for our site, our company, and the future of American energy. Today marks a major milestone worth celebrating. Just recently, the Department of Energy and Constellation announced for the first time in its history that the DOE's Loan Programs Office has concurrently finalized both a conditional loan commitment and a financial close. That achievement is not just a headline. It's a statement of confidence in nuclear energy, American innovation, and the skilled workforce right here at Crane. We are honored to welcome a wide range of guests here today to make this possible. Representing the federal government and the administration, we have Department of Energy Secretary Christopher Wright, Assistant Secretary Ted Garish, and their great staff. Thank you for joining us. We also have our great guest from Microsoft, Vice President of Energy, Bobby Hollis. And representing the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we have State Rep Tom Mahaffey, State Senator Greg Rothman. We have our great local leaders here, strong supporters, Londonderry Township Board of Supervisors, Scott Merschlinski and Bart Schellenhammer. Middletown Borough Manager Ken Kleinpeter. Representing the business community, Harrisburg Regional Chamber and CREDIC President CEO Ryan Unger, and representing Pennsylvania Labor and the Building Trades Council, Joe Gussler. And not to forget Crane, we have Site Vice President Clint Six, Plant Manager Trevor Orth, and the great men and women here at Crane Clean Energy Center. Thank you for joining us today. Also want to thank the members of the media. We'll have Q&A shortly after this great lineup of speakers we have today. And let's begin. I do want to introduce my pleasure, someone whose leadership continues to guide Constellation through its most transformative era. A true champion of America's energy revolution and knowing the critical role that nuclear energy plays in securing America's power grid. Please join me in welcoming Constellation President and Chief Executive Officer, Joe Dominguez.
I want to thank Dave for that very nice and generous introduction. But listen, the stars of the show are the folks in the room that are bringing this plant to life. Since we started this project, we've hired 500 full-time employees already back here. Pretty incredible, given the high standards we have for the folks we want to bring into the company. Another 500 contractors who will work full-time. Altogether, that'll grow to 3,400 jobs in this community that desperately needs both jobs and energy. So incredibly exciting. The work on the plant has been breathtaking, so thank you guys for everything you're doing every day. The care you're putting in, the quality of the work is outstanding. The significance of today is really this. We are getting a loan from the federal government that we will pay back. But the interest payment on that loan is going to be a little bit less than what we would have otherwise have been able to borrow that money for. So we're taking that savings and we're plowing it right back into the plant. We're doing something that President Trump and Secretary Wright challenged us to do. Get this online sooner for the American public. And I'm excited to tell you today that if we retain that timeline, we will be able to bring this plant back to life, fully back to life, providing more output than the day it was shut down in the summer of 2027. And it couldn't come at a more important time. As Americans need more energy, as we look at the America First policies, and as we power this important revolution in AI. Now, Dave told you that Secretary Wright is here and is going to make a couple of comments, and Microsoft is here. Bobby Hollis from Microsoft is here. And it's especially a real pleasure to introduce them as people because we think about the US government, we think about Microsoft. It could not have been an easy decision for Microsoft to restart TMI, right? Given the history here. And if I had to point to one individual within Microsoft who was a champion for that, it's Bobby. And Bobby, as much as anyone, has the right to lay claim for what we're seeing right now, which is a renewed interest across the country in nuclear. understanding that the first and most important thing we need to do is bring back to life assets that we mistakenly closed, because you can't move forward until you fix the things that you did wrong in the past. And that's what we're doing here. And we're doing it in other parts of the country. And all told, the work we do here, the work we will do at other plants that we own, and the work the industry will do, promises to bring back 10 gigawatts of power, enough power for 10 million families, to bring down costs, increase reliability, and support growth in the economy, all critical things that we need to do. Now, Secretary Wright, I'm going to reserve my final comments for you because in the entirety of the time I've known you, you have been a champion for the truth about energy, not always easy to tell, and you've been a champion for nuclear energy. So if I might ask my colleagues here to give a round of applause, well-deserved, for Secretary Wright. He's been nothing short of amazing. President Trump and Secretary Wright remind us of the most important thing, the difference between talking a good talk and walking a real walk. And it's because of that that many of you have jobs doing this important work for our country at this critical time. And so I thank you again for your leadership, for the President's leadership. We are doing all of this. We will bring back a more effective unit, faster to the grid at a critical time. And without both of you being personally involved, that could never have happened. So thank you, gentlemen. I'm in awe of both of your work. And Bobby, I'm going to turn it over to you, say a few words on behalf of Microsoft, and then we'll give Secretary Wright the balance of the time.
So these are incredible words coming from Joe, who really has been a leader, not just for Constellation, but for the nuclear sector. And so when I joined Microsoft, we were really ramping up and looking at how do we really match the moment for AI. And the way we do that when we look at energy is how do we look at things like carbon-free energy and adding capacity to the grid, making sure that when we are consuming new energy, that we're bringing new energy to support us as well. We scoured the entire landscape and we found a really great opportunity here in Pennsylvania. And I said this 6 months ago and was really fortunate. And this is one of the main reasons I wanted to have this opportunity to do this again here in December, is the community that really lined up behind this project, that is making this project happen, not just within Constellation, but all of the pieces of the entire support system here that are bringing this back to life and supporting the entire effort here with the Crane Energy Center. It's incredible to see. And now to have the opportunity to really thank Secretary Wright for bringing this even further along, to recognize what we have going here is something very special. It really did set a playbook that we think has been a tremendous opportunity. We're seeing some of our peers, we're seeing lots within the energy sector recognize what needs to be happening now, which is add energy capacity to the grid, find the opportunities that are not the typical opportunities. Things like the 3 Mile Island plant, which is now the Crane Energy facility, where you can actually bring nuclear carbon-free electrons back to the grid much faster than we're seeing in other more nascent technologies. Those are important too. How do we get those to happen faster? But if we do have opportunities that have line of sight to greater certainty, and with the support of the administration and Department of Energy and Secretary Wright, we actually see all of the pieces coming together. So we've had that community support here. We've had the support of Constellation, the leadership, the ability to make this happen. And now we have all of the stars coming together. So we do see an incredible project that this community, that this talent pool, this workforce recognizes what it can do. It can bring back energy that makes a ton of sense for the entire PJM grid and for the state of Pennsylvania, and also makes a ton of sense for us at Microsoft. So we recognize the value that comes from us supporting financially a project like Crane Energy Center. And so having all of these pieces coming together and Secretary Wright also being here to show the kind of support that we are seeing at every level of government, it's an important initiative, it's an important milestone, and getting the opportunity to see everything that has happened here over the last less than 2 years. It's an incredible feat to say that we actually got to a contract to make this project come back to life. And now we are so close to actually seeing the electrons start coming back to life as well. So tremendous opportunity, tremendous results, and this is what can happen when we really all come together, industry, government, energy providers, to make all of this work the way that it should. So thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you, Constellation, and thank you, Secretary Wright, for really standing behind this project.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you, Joe. Great partners. I want to thank the people that work at the plant that are getting it ready to go again and will operate it. Nothing in life just happens. Things only happen if humans drive them and humans make them happen. So I look back at you with pride and with excitement. I can't wait for that day 18 months from now when this plant is running and delivering nearly a gigawatt of additional electricity to Pennsylvania. This project is a poster child of the Trump administration's agenda. It's delivering on two of our large promises. One is to drive down energy prices for Americans here in Pennsylvania and PJM, but the agenda is in all 50 states across the country. I'll talk a little bit in the pathway to do that. And the other key agenda item for us is to win the race in AI. Our friends at Microsoft, just a tremendously innovative company that's investing massively in data centers, or maybe more accurately, intelligence factories that are going to help boost our economy economically, scientifically, and from a national defense perspective. It's very important that America leads in AI, and that means much more energy. We want to reshore manufacturing and jobs to our country as well. That as well only possible with more affordable, secure, reliable power. We got here because Americans are frustrated. We've seen a nearly 30% rise in average electricity prices of our country over the last 4 years during the Biden administration. No new electricity was produced, no great innovation we got for that trade-off, just a significant rise in electricity prices across our country. The problem started way back in the Obama-Biden administration, where we just got off track off energy. You know, a misunderstanding of climate change, a desire to peddle fear and funnel investment in whatever direction, whether it made sense or not. And we started to build a whole bunch of new electric generating capacity that worked some of the time, but you didn't know when it was going to work and when it wasn't going to work. You can't run an electricity grid that way, so you had to build that kit and keep the existing stuff so the lights would stay on at peak demand times. As you build two grids and all that capacity, you're inevitably going to drive prices up. We also got overconfident. Well, maybe the wind will blow in these high pressure systems when the air is still. Well, no, it doesn't. As we started to close too many plants, reliable, secure delivery plants, part of them were because they were undermined by the economics of this new grid design. That if the wind is blowing, the federal government will send you a check, the state government will send you a check. We don't need your electricity because it's the middle of the day, but we'll send you a check. Well, what does that do? It undermines the economics of coal plants and of nuclear plants and of gas plants. That's why this plant closed. This plant wasn't even middle-aged yet. Nuclear power plants, and this plant in particular, incredibly long lifetime. Unbelievable engineering and steel that we saw inside that building. It could run, I predict right now, I won't be around to collect the winnings, but this plant will be running at the end of this century. It'll have new electronics and new systems along the way, but it's just a foundational asset for our country. We're getting an extra gigawatt of power out of this. The Palisades plant that our energy dominance financing team, and I see them sitting in the room today, our first nuclear plant restart will come online perhaps next month in Michigan, and we've got more on the way. And we're going to work with Constellation and others to increase the power output of existing nuclear facilities, of generating plants around the country. But where were we headed? If President Biden's policies continued for 4 more years, where would that have led us? Well, as the head of the Energy Department and the keeper of all of that data and plans for where we were going, I can tell you, there was a little over 100 gigawatts of reliable, firm capacity like this beautiful plant we're at today that was slated to be closed. Not because it was at end of life and it needed to be replaced, just because it was politically out of favor and we were going to close those plants. Well, guess what? If you close plants that work when you're at peak demand, when the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining, if you close those plants, one thing is for sure, it is guaranteed that you will raise the price of electricity. Americans have suffered that. Americans have seen that. President Trump got elected to reverse that. So to date, in our 10 months, 11 months in office, we've already stopped the closure of over 15 gigawatts of power production capacity across this country. If we had continued, we did an electrical study of looking at the grid and extrapolating forward 5 years. This was done in the spring. Where would we have been? If that 100 gigawatts have closed, and of course we wanted to participate in the AI race and build these data centers, reshore some American manufacturing, blackouts would be 100 times more common than they were at the start of the time period. And they've already started to rise after a century of declining inflation-adjusted electricity prices and increasing grid reliability. This is America. We can get back to common sense. We are getting back to common sense. I'm very proud of this plant starting again. I'm very proud that we're going to change direction. We're going to reduce the risks of blackouts. We're going to drive down electricity prices. And we're going to make an investment climate, an energy climate, so players like Microsoft and all the other large American technology companies can build all the data centers that they want and have reliable electricity to power them. I'll end with one other comment on that. There's a belief, a growing belief in the public right now that data centers are the problem. New load is coming on our grid and that's going to drive up our electricity prices. I look back last 5 years at the data. It's actually the exact opposite. In states, think New York, think California, think Massachusetts, that have followed very bad energy policies, they've had the fastest rise in prices and they produce less electricity today than they did 5 years ago. Or alternatively, if you look at the states that have welcomed new load and new development, the states that have had the largest growth in electricity demand over the last 5 years, those are the states that have either had no rise in electricity prices or modest rises below the rate of inflation. Growing the demand, steadier demand from data centers on grids is a surefire way to drive down electricity prices. So we want to keep existing plants open. We want to open premature plants that were prematurely closed. We are expediting the building of new plants. We are enabling existing plants, including with our friends at Constellation, to uprate, get more power out of their plants than they get today. We'll uprate them for tomorrow. All of these things will drive down prices for Americans, encourage businesses to invest and reshore in our country, and allow America to lead in AI. Thank you all for being here today. God bless you all that are restarting this plant, that are getting that work done and then going to operate it going forward. That's the America we want to live in, an America of opportunity, an America of growth, an America of optimism, an America of lower prices and common sense. I'm thrilled to be here today, and I think we'll be taking some questions from the press for any of the speakers on the stage.
Hi, I'm Jackson White from WITF. This is a question for the Secretary. So what is your response to pushback and the safety concerns coming out about how quickly the department is expecting new reactors to reopen or establishing the new reactors under the reactor pilot program?
Yes, as I say, at DOE, at our regulatory regime, and at NRC, our focus, particularly at NRC, the focus is safety, safety, and safety. The NRC before did not deliver unsafe reactors, but I think its focus was bureaucracy, safety, and bureaucracy. We built 100 nuclear plants from the mid-1950s until the creation of the NRC. And since then, we have licensed and brought online 2 new reactors. Nuclear technology is inherently energy dense, inherently dispatchable at all times, and with some reasonable engineering, quite safe. The track record of nuclear from its launch, so this is a new technology, to today is crushingly the best safety record of any energy production technology in the world. And now we have new generation technology. Like the reactor we were in, the worst nuclear accident we had in the United States was right here. Some valves closed that shouldn't have closed, some decisions made were wrong, and we had some equipment fail. Nobody died. We didn't have any serious health impacts from it, but we got scared. We don't like to see that happen. This is early generation reactor. Today, with the control systems in there, that problem would be impossible to happen. Impossible to happen. If a valve failed, a sensor would immediately see something's not right, the temperature's changing. In fact, we were saying before, you would know in seconds. In fact, you wouldn't know because the AI automated system would immediately fix the problem, and then the parts would be repaired and all that. So I think with the controls technology we have today, with the learnings and with the rollout of artificial intelligence, nuclear safety record, which going back has been great, will be massively better going forward. I think super excited about the future of nuclear. So I think it goes from a very safe energy technology to an unbelievably safe energy technology. But we want to be open and transparent and engage with everyone about that. Because to the point of your question, we want people that are uncertain, that are fearful, that are worried. We want to engage with them directly and bring them with data and with facts why they should be assured we're in a great place.
Yes, sir. Mr. Secretary, Tom Lehman from WGAL. When you talk about the balancing some of these power concerns and the growing use of AI, is there ever concern that at some point we're just going to keep getting more demand, more power needs, and there's going to be a point where you may not have what you need to catch up? I mean, how do you balance all of that?
So I think growth in demand for electricity is a good thing. In fact, I think it's a fantastic thing. And I don't worry about meeting if, we think we need 100 gigawatts of additional firm capacity in the next 5 years. That's our projection. As I said, if I continued the policies of the previous administration, we'd have a little over 100 gigawatts closed. They had plans for 22 gigawatts of addition, so we'd have gone down by about 80 gigawatts. We want to go up by 100 gigawatts. If the real number is not up by 100, but up by 150, up by 200, I actually think that's fantastic news. We have over 1,000 gigawatts of capacity today. So can we add more than the plan already? Absolutely, we can add. Is it going to be we have to move quick? We have to do smart things. We got to employ the Energy Dominance Financing Office. We got to get companies to lean in and take a little bit more risk. Yes, but the more load growth we have from manufacturing or data centers, the more we can push down electricity prices. So would I rather have electricity prices go down more? Yes. The lower, the better. And the more electricity demand we have in the United States, it means the higher quality people's lives are, the more things we're making here, the more businesses that are here. Today, the world has about 1 billion people that live like us, and it's got 7 billion people that want to live like us. That means the world needs a lot more energy. In the United States, we've got 20% of our population that really struggle to pay their energy bills. We have close to 10% that got a utility disconnection notice in the last 12 months. That's horrifying to me personally. Only about a third of those actually had their electricity turned off. But we want to bring that to an end. That's what we want to focus on. We want to end energy poverty and struggles with the ability to purchase energy, struggles to find well-paying jobs. We want to bring some dynamism and some economic opportunity in this country. So no, I don't see limits on growth. This is America. But thanks for the question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Sarah Wilson with ABC 27. There are nuclear watchdogs who say that this is not necessary because Pennsylvania is a very large energy producer that exports about 30% of the power. So if we kept that to ourselves, we wouldn't have to do this. What do you say to them? Well,
America is a country of 50 states, and Pennsylvania is an energy powerhouse, and it has been from the start. The anthracite coal from eastern Pennsylvania launched the Industrial Revolution in the United States. I'm incredibly proud of that. The global oil and gas industry was launched in western Pennsylvania. The greatest gas shale on the planet is in Pennsylvania. So is Pennsylvania an energy powerhouse? Absolutely. Pennsylvania is a large energy exporter, as you just said. On electricity, it's even a larger exporter if you look at coal and natural gas. I think these are great benefits of Pennsylvania. So more electricity in Pennsylvania is good for Pennsylvanians, it's good for the surrounding region, but absolutely we want trade and energy flows across state boundaries and state borders. In fact, it's Pennsylvania gas that can dramatically lower heating and electricity prices in all 6 New England states. That's an agenda item of President Trump as well. There are a lot of people across the country struggling to pay electricity bills, and as our team has dug into it, everywhere you see expensive energy, it's because of political choices. It's because of policies. It's because of barriers that are put in the way. It's never because they exported energy or they produced too much. Thank you for the question. But Pennsylvania is an energy powerhouse, and it should continue down that road because that's the road for prosperity of Pennsylvania, and it's certainly the road to lower prices.
Could I ask a question of Mr. Dominguez? Okay, we'll give you a break, Mr. Secretary. Sure. Charlie Thompson. I'm a reporter with PennLive.com here in Harrisburg. And Mr. Dominguez, I was just wondering if you could give us your perspective on the restart process here, and if, as things are going now, what looks like the biggest potential hurdle facing Constellation from where you are right now to getting to restart day? Is there anything that looms as the biggest potential hurdle?
Well, probably the biggest hurdle is getting it electrically interconnected. My people will have this plant ready to start in 27. I guarantee it. We have to make sure that PJM and the local utilities get it interconnected to the grid on that timeline. The relentless will of Secretary Wright will be deployed in that direction shortly, I am confident. That is the challenge. We will have the staffing, we will have the licensed operators, we'll have all the critical components here. We will be able to fuel this reactor in the second quarter of 27 on schedule as needed by the American people. PJM, the local grid operators, and the utilities got to act with the same level of urgency to do the interconnection. This should not be a gargantuan task. This plant was operating 5 years ago. We're not talking about new wires. So again, I've asked Secretary Wright to help us with that, and I know he will. But that's probably the thing that worries me at this point in time. I know our folks will have this plant ready to go.
Okay, and you mentioned you mentioned that you will be taking avoided interest cost from this federal financing and plowing it back into the plant. I was wondering if you could speak about what specifically that may enable you to do, and could that actually open the door to uprating this plant, or is that further down the road?
Now, we're going to do a little bit of both. So look, this is a people problem. This is getting skilled labor here, both contractors and our own team at Constellation, up and ready to rock and roll as fast as possible. A little bit of money greases the skids in terms of getting the craft that we need here, getting the training done on a more expedited basis. And in the case of the fuel for the reactor, what it allowed us to do is give more money to that fuel vendor so that they could move us forward in their production schedule so that we could be the first entity to get the uranium needed to run this place. Look, I'm very happy with the way the team has responded. I'm very happy with the way the vendors have responded. Everybody understands the significance because of what this place represents. It represents our darkest day in this business, and it also represents the day that we started embarking on a journey to make this the best operating industry in the world, and I believe we are that today. We understand the public trust associated with operating that. There was a question earlier about safety. Any compromise in safety ends my business. I understand that, first and foremost. It is of highest priority. Secretary Wright told us from the very beginning that any regulatory reforms that were to be made will never compromise and in fact should enhance safety. How do they enhance it? By ensuring that our regulators aren't wasting time on regulatory processes that yield little value in the work, right? And making sure they're working on the right things. A lot of people in the media have commented about DOGE and about the impact of DOGE. I will tell you that at least for our industry, the ideas that we're implementing on an expedited basis because of the fire that the Dominance Council, led by Secretary Wright, has driven, is to speed up reforms that were thought up within the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. When they came in, the first thing they did is start asking staffers at these regulatory agencies, how do we do this faster and better? And guess what? There were dozens of ideas that had been developed by staff at NRC over the years that had been put on a shelf because someone did not have the desire to drive them. That has all changed since President Trump was elected. And that's why people in my industry speak with reverence when it concerns Secretary Wright and the processes that are underway. But we know first and foremost that the thing that we always have to guarantee, the thing that we are beneficiaries of, is this enormous public trust because of the technology we operate. Not because its performance has been bad. Secretary Wright correctly points out that it has been recognized as the safest in the world. But because public trust is also based on perception, and we have to do it right. We will do it right at Constellation, and we will do it right faster, and we will meet the moment in time for this country. That's my commitment.
All right, we have time for one or two more questions. Yes.
Hi, my name is Peter Hall. I'm a reporter with the Pennsylvania Capital Star here in Harrisburg and also States Newsroom nationally. For Secretary White or Bobby from Microsoft, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is considering essentially the rules of how new loads are going to connect to the grid across the nation. It's specifically for PJM, but it has impact across the nation. Just interested in hearing your thoughts on the proposal of the independent market monitor that new large loads not be permitted to connect until there's established generation on the grid to support them.
I'm not sure I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, and that could be just my ignorance. But we are doing a number of reforms at FERC, just again to make it more efficient and to update FERC for the moment we're in today. Sadly, we've had 3 decades of very little demand growth for electricity. It's been a world more of stasis, and now we're in a world of rapid growth. So, you know, the processes you had to follow if you were Microsoft's building a new data center and they also want to partner or build a new generation source, they would have 2 totally different processes for those 2 things together. Also, the electricity grid is complicated. So to understand balancing loads and demands and all that involves these studies. Well, let's bring some technology. Let's bring AI and automation. We can move that stuff along much faster. We also have a problem with the way the process works. Today, and because of the Biden administration, like over 90% of what's in the backlog, the huge backlog, is wind, solar, and batteries, the vast majority of which will never be built. People just put in a connection request to see what might happen, and maybe they raise the capital, maybe it happens. So we're going to have some prioritization. If you're going to bring deliverable firm power, enable a new business, or drive prices down, we're going to speed that up. We want to add everything to the grid that makes sense, but it's just some older structure of FERC, well-meaning people, but just an older structure that's like that needs to be updated to meet the moment of today. So FERC's an independent agency, but obviously it's in the energy world, so we're in constant dialogue with them. My deputy energy secretary was former chairman of FERC. So we take the electricity grid very seriously, and we're looking and soliciting feedback from the industry. Joe and I were talking about it today. What are the practical ideas that we can do a better job to serve the American people?
If I may, you didn't call me out, but we certainly have a view about that at Constellation. Look, we understand the sentiment behind the idea. It on its face seems like a very simple thing. If you're going to add a big data center, add a big power plant at the same time. As with most simple ideas that are applied to a complicated problem, it has some failings. I'll describe them. To build a plant like this from scratch, or even to build a gas-fired generation plant from scratch, is probably a plant like this, 7, 8 years, best case. A gas-fired plant, 4 to 5 years, best case. All the issues we talked about getting these plants connected to the grid, building transmission lines, all of that. So if you want to tell the folks in our data economy that they can't put AI to work until we get new power plants operating, we might as well call timeout on the game and wait 5, 6, 7 years. I don't have to be Bobby Hollis to tell you that the AI race is going to be over by then. The Wall Street Journal did an amazing article that should scare the heck out of every one of us in the room, showing the magnitude of the effort to build new and apply the power they have in China to win the AI race, which is not only important for the efficiency of our economy, but for the very preservation of our democracy. So we can't do what the market monitor is doing and still expect to grow this economy and meet the moment. We need to focus, as Microsoft has, on opportunities to bring energy to the grid quickly. This is one such opportunity. But there are other aspects of solving the problem that simply require us to rethink the way we are using energy so that we can meet peak hours of demand. As Secretary Wright will tell you in volumes, most of the time, we use barely 50% of the power plants in this country. What we have is a peak energy problem that can be solved by things like getting customers to reduce demand during key hours that don't require us to build whole new power plants to power data centers. The market monitor's proposal failed to get even a bare majority of support within PJM because it's widely understood to have all of the defects that I just described and many, many more. It's a simple solution that makes for a simple soundbite and for terrible policy.
Thank you. All right, we have one last question.
Actually, my question is for Bobby Hollis at Microsoft. Just because we haven't heard from you, I didn't get to speak with you earlier. And it's important what Joe and Secretary Wright have just talked about in terms of the pressure on the grid. And so I'm curious, is Microsoft, or what is Microsoft doing to make sure that maybe it is utilizing the best times and putting the least amount of load on grids so that people can really realize the new power coming online and the lower pricing? Are you looking at that? Because you'll exist in communities.
Definitely. And I mean, this particular plant is a great example of how we approach that. Because when we look at how whether it's a data center for cloud or whether it's a supercompute data center for AI, it's new load. So how do we look at that and make sure we're looking for new generation? Because that's how we make sure that we are being good stewards of not just the communities that we're potentially building in, but also from the energy perspective. We heard a lot about energy costs. There's a lot of discussions about energy costs. That's how we make sure that when we are looking at being a good energy customer, we're also being good energy providers and good responsible energy citizens. So there's a lot of discussion that often looks at sustainability goals. We have lots of other principles built into how we treat energy around affordability and reliability that are equally important. So that concept of what we call additionality, bringing in additional new generation that supports our growth, is how we make sure that we are being important, responsible energy customers and partnering with the local utilities, making sure the utilities don't overbuild for us. What they build is what they have to build to support us, and that's what we are paying for and making sure that we're paying for it. So that dialogue of being good customers and being really good partners to the utilities, transparent, understanding exactly what's going on with our data centers. We heard a lot about sort of peak energy versus baseload energy generation. It gets really wonky and nerdy very fast, but the concept is making sure you're building the right generation and not overbuilding. And what's being built to support us is what we are actually paying for and making sure that we're paying for it in whatever rate structure is designed for us. And if need be, in really working with that utility to build a new rate structure, if that's what has to happen, to make sure that that's taking place. So everything for us is making sure we're being responsible, good partners for the utility and for the community. And all of the dialogue, we think it's an important dialogue that's taking place. And we think that the question should be posed to people like us to make sure that we are doing the right thing for the energy sector and for the utilities and for the communities that are hosting us, because those communities are our partners. Those are our long-term opportunities. We want to make sure that that is a true partnership that is always going to be something that's looked on favorably by us, but especially by the towns and the communities that support us.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. That concludes the press conference. Sorry, Secretary Wright.
I was just going to say, those words from Bobby, I just want to tell everyone, they're not just words. Microsoft and Bobby and his team have been working with our department to try to develop guidelines and even a plan about how all large new load interconnections can actually be positive for the ratepayers, can stop the rise of electricity prices or push them down. So he said very nice words there, but they are real, and they are working on that every day. So thank you. Microsoft has been fantastic in this area.
All right, thank you. That's the end of the press conference.
Thank you all. Members of the media, we're going to go outside and do a photo opportunity. Thank you, our guests, for joining us today. Appreciate it. Thank you.